Hey all, this is Siege, and I have to tell you, my last video got quite a few views, so it seems like Warframe is a game you want to see. Nice. Now I'm excited. I've got all kinds of ideas, but anyone that's followed this channel with any regularity knows I'm a sucker for a story. So let's just start there, yeah? Now, as I said in my previous video, Warframe's story is somewhat convoluted, especially the background of it. So in this video, I want to try to explain a little bit based on what I know. The video is going to give an idea of what transpired in the origin system, or essentially our solar system, up to the opening cinematic of the Warframe experience. Now, many of you might not have played through all the quests in the game, so I strongly caution you to get through those first, as we are moving into spoiler territory, especially if you've not played the Second Dream, War Within, or Chains of Harrow quest. That being said, if you've made it past that point, or you're just interested in knowing what's going on, here we go. Bear in mind, this is just my interpretation based on research I've personally done, and as such, certainly isn't perfect. So please feel free to question anything in the comments below, and I'll do my best to defend my position, or if nothing else, maybe change it depending on what you say. Anywho, everything begins with the Void, a mysterious force that, once discovered, is harnessed by humanity to push a technological revolution that would see our race become godlike in nature, offering seemingly unlimited power, even enough to terraform actual planets, allowing the Orokin Empire to be born. While it's not clear how they were chosen, 7 emperors were seated as the ruling entity of this new regime, while their executors carried out their will, which resulted in unbelievable technological advances and an exponential increase in human life expectancy to literal centuries. Now, the origin system is colonized and taken under control, but it's not long before scientific experimentation and overpopulation decimate most of the natural resources, leaving the Orokin to attempt to formulate a way to save their failing society. In truth, most of the wildlife actually found on the planets that you see in-game is genetically engineered by a technology called technocyte, which is theorized as the origin of the infested virus. The failing nature of their society prompted the development of the plan, which culminated in the desire to send self-replicating technology to the neighboring Tau system to terraform that area for future habitation and exploitation. This idea is originally shunned amongst the Orokin for not adhering to the strict set of guidelines called the 7 Principles, and a fear that this technology could become more dangerous even to their own existence. But, given the grave state of the current system, the Orokin ruling class allow it to transpire due to the idea that these machines harbor an innate weakness to void energies, one they feel that can be used to control any problems that may occur. Once the process begins, a ship called the Cerumen 10-0 is sent into the Void to travel to the Tau system and begin a colonization process. But during the trip from Saturn through the void space, the project experiences massive failure, and the ship itself is lost in the void. Now, the adult inhabitants of the Cerumen begin to go mad due to the unfiltered exposure to the void, becoming almost zombie-like, attacking one another and turning the ship into a terrible nightmare. Although it's never completely substantiated, the idea of an actual entity representing the void is alluded to many times within the lore, and could be the driving force behind the insanity.
You mad at me, kiddo? Did you forget? You owe me.
It's also found that, once again strongly against protocol, many children were also on board. However, they're not affected in the same way the adults are. Not only are they able to keep their sanity, they are imbued with immense psychic power, and are able to fend off threats from the degrading minds of the adults. This continues on until the ship suddenly reappears in our system and is found by the Orokin. Upon entry into the broken Cerumen 10-0, one Orokin named Kayleen is horribly scarred by one of the children, and it's found that, while immensely powerful, these kids have no ability to control their actions, causing many of the Orokins to consider them a great threat. One of the Orokin, though, named Margulis, takes pity on the children and decides to attempt to help them, developing a system that allows them to relax their abilities in a type of lucid dream within a specially designed chamber that dulls their sensitivity to the void's influences. In the process, she herself is blinded by their powers, but continues on with their work, having developed a type of motherly affection for all the children. At this time, the initial self-replicating machines sent into the void actually return. Now they've manifested into free-thinking entities called sentients, seeking revenge on the Orokin for having their ability to reproduce destroyed by the void's properties. This begins what is known as the Old War, and at the offset, the Orokin are horribly overmatched, with the sentients being able to assimilate Orokin technology with ease to use against them. However, it is found that they do have a weakness to archaic weaponry, and a lower genetically created slave race called the Grineer are enlisted to fight alongside the Orokin's Dax militia units to use against the sentient machines. Another method of retaliation is also being researched in the form of a super soldier program comprised of what appears to be the aforementioned technocyte. However, this proves ineffective as the golems that are created in the process are not able to be controlled and are considered a failure until it is found that the children from the Cerumen 10-0 can actually interface and manipulate these golems to incredible effect in a process called transference, giving the Orokin the weapon they require to properly combat the sentient onslaught. Margulis is aided by another called Sylvana, and both are recruited into what is now known as the WARFRAME project, in an attempt to better harness and refine this new discovery. Believing the idea of using the children as weapons to be inherently wrong, Sylvana flees to Earth, and Margulis openly denounces the Orokin, for which she is put to death by the Executor Council, one of which turns out to be her own lover, named Ballas, who continues on with her work. Sylvana, an authority on Technocyte, uses self-made apothics and a somatic link to attempt to commune with an area of genetically engineered Earth called the Silver Grove in order to combat the Orokin, but her mind splits from her physical form and she literally becomes the Silver Grove in the process. Pushing forward with the Warframe project, the children of the Cerumen 10-0, now called Tenno, utilize the Warframes to successfully combat the sentients and are revered amongst the Orokin as heroes of their cause. They go on to form their own beliefs and disciplines, namely Maturai, Zeneric, Unaru, Naramon, and Vazarin, become functional aspects of society, and a modicum of peace is restored. Now, during this time, a mercenary named Orden Karis is celebrated amongst the Orokin for his efforts in helping their war. However, he's racked with grief at the genocide he's forced to commit in their name and secretly plans to kill them during a special ceremony they planned for him. It's at this point we learn of the Orokin's ability to transcend death, as after he ruthlessly slaughters the entire group in this procession, they resurrect themselves and laugh at his efforts, deciding to punish him with eternal life as a ship cephalon for one of the Tenno, a type of slave-like existence where his mind is turned into a digital entity where he will serve indefinitely. His memories are removed and he becomes the cephalon we know as Ortis, with his broken personality, product of these thoughts trying to resurface. Meanwhile, the sentients, while temporarily defeated, devise a way to infiltrate the Orokin towers to destroy the Tenno using one of their own, named Nata, who is the daughter of the sentient known as Hunhao. Nata is successful in this regard. However, she learns of the story of Margulis and the Tenno, and is overcome by compassion for both. Due to her own inability to have offspring from the aforementioned void exposure, she decides against their destruction and instead takes on the visage and personality of Margulis, vowing to become their protector and in ways their mother as the Lotus instead. Around the same time, a secondary front by the sentients on Earth in the form of a massive creature is resisted and repressed by an Orokin tower. This place comes to be known as the Plains of Eidolon. It has been theorized that the tower god Unum is actually a human who, similarly to Sylvana, had her consciousness transferred to the tower itself and directs the Ostrons as to which pieces of her wall flesh they may utilize for survival, allowing other areas ample time to heal. It should be noted that she is the power behind the force field that protects the Ostrons from the outside world, specifically the sentient Eidolons as well as the invading Grineer forces. Moving on, the sentients decide on a false retreat to allow the Orkin to believe the war is over. Hun Hao allows himself to be defeated on Uranus, and with the war seemingly done, the 7 emperors decide to personally celebrate this with the Tenno, coming down from their exalted thrones to do so. However, it's believed that the Tenno used this opportunity to destroy the Orkin hierarchy, and although one can assume the reason to be their own exploitation, the exact reason is never made clear. What is known is that the action forces many of the Tenno back into cryosleep as they are overcome with guilt at their actions, with this cryosleep repressing their memories of what they'd done. Furthermore, a witness to the event that may either be human or Tenno decides to exact eternal revenge for this action and becomes the Stalker in order to achieve this goal, which most likely explains his ability to fight, die, and resurrect as the Tenno do. With the Orkin Emperors gone, Nata is supposed to destroy the Tenno and resurrect Hun Hao to win the war for the Sentients. But, given her newfound affection for the Tenno, she decides against this and formulates a plan to hide the remaining Tenno away. The Sentients remain dormant, the Orkin society crumbles due to the loss of their leadership, and the Great Plague, or the rampant overrun of the infestation, begins. Although the Orkin originally thought the Tennocyte virus would aid them in the fight against the Sentients, in the end it did little other than introduce a hive mind, potentially called Helminth, that seemingly controls the infested in their actions. This time is referred to in the lore as the Collapse. The Grineer, who were essentially slaves of the Orkin, used this as a way to take power over the Origin system, with the Grineer Twin Queens at the helm. Also, a group of mercenaries, smugglers, and fugitives band together under the idea of worshipping Prophet and call themselves the Corpus. Both factions carry an uneasy alliance and use this as a way to advance their own kind, trading technology and artifacts for materials and currency. This leads to a system of corruption, greed, and power on all planets not completely overtaken by the infested. After watching centuries of this state, Nata decides to reawaken the sleeping Tenno in order to bring balance back to the Origin system, many directly through their warframes, as most did not remember their past or who they really were. And this is where your story in Warframe begins. Hope you enjoyed this little summation of the events leading up to the beginning of the story. If you did enjoy it, let me know in the comments and maybe give the old boy a thumbs up, would you? If I get a good response from this video, I'll dig deeper into the lore and try to explain other aspects of the game as well. At any rate, this should give a bit of background the next time you play and clear some things up while you're doing it. So have a great day. Don't forget to log in and get your daily tribute. And take care all. Bye.